On today's episode of An Echo of Glory, we look back at that North London derby draw and we talk to Liverpool and Spurs goal-scoring legend Jamie Carragher. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Joining me as always, Gary Diamond.
Afternoon.
And more often than not, Jake Robson.
As always now.
As always now. Yeah, okay. All right. It's going to start straight off with Sunday, something that I really want to talk about. Well, actually, firstly, where did you watch the game?
I was at a wedding.
Right.
But I was one of 2 Tottenham fans, 7 Arsenal fans. I was in the trenches.
Oh, I couldn't have done it.
Wow.
I was in the trenches.
What, so are you watching it on a phone or?
No, we had a TV set up.
Wow.
Laptop into the telly. Yeah, it wasn't an option. It had to be done.
I couldn't watch it with Arsenal fans. Do you know?
Was that? Well, I wasn't going to watch it in the toilet on my phone, was I?
I would have. At my wedding, actually, Spurs were playing.
Yes.
And this is topical because we're playing Liverpool this week, and you were at my wedding.
Yeah.
And so we're having the ceremony, and Spurs are playing Liverpool away from home. And the game kicks off at 4 o'clock, same time as Spurs kicked off. So I was thinking, if the ceremony would be about 25 minutes or thereabouts, it might be 0-0.
Let's get this over with.
All I can see out the corner of my eye is this guy going 1-0, and I'm going. I'm in the ceremony. I'm going 2 hours. No. To them. And then my dad, I can see him out the corner of my eye during the ceremony, just going. He's getting angrier and angrier. My wife's been stood next to me. What's going on? Spurs are getting hammered.
And we did get hammered 4-0.
4-0. Yeah.
Yeah. Day before my wedding, we beat Villa 2-1. Crouch and Van der Vaart, I think, or certainly the old knockdown. Crouch knocking it down
from Van der Vaart,
to Van der Vaart. Jake, your wedding?
It was we lost at Leicester 2019. It was in the morning, so the wedding was later.
Early VAR days when we had one ruled out.
That was Maddison, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Madison scored the winner.
Yeah.
And Aurier offside, which would have put us 2-0 up,
Correct.
and then we go off to
Ricardo Pereira and Maddison.
Yeah.
Talking of weddings, you go to a wedding in a suit. What did you make of Ange's suit? Because I thought I don't know, suit didn't do it for me. He was either dressed up for a wedding or a funeral. I'm not sure what.
I just thought, bless Ange. Why is he?
Do you think it worked?
No, I liked the what was it? The sort of long polo shirt kind of thing that he was going with. Yeah, you know why he's done it. It's the big game. It's Arsenal away. He's pulled out the black suit. I wasn't sure. I was thinking to myself, surely it's not black. It looked black on the telly, but maybe it was a really. Let's say it was
Spurs blue.
Maybe it was a really navy blue. He didn't. You know what was missing was like some kind of Spurs logo
badge,
or pin or badge or a tie or something.
Yeah.
Just to give it that Spurs edge to it rather than the Undertaker look.
Yeah.
But
I did wonder because I think I can't remember here or somewhere else. I've had the debate about whether when a manager changes to a suit, but when a manager changes to a suit, and they've normally wear something different, does it give off a different vibe to the players? Does it sort of make them think this is a bit different?
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of the suit. I think Ange usually looks pretty cool. Not a fan of it.
Funny thing is, he used to wear a suit a lot at Celtic. A lot of the pictures I saw of him,
he did.
and then I was surprised then when he didn't at Tottenham bring it in a bit earlier. But
I love him, but I just don't.
Where does he go? Where does he go next week then? Where does he go?
He'll go cash again.
You reckon?
I just don't think the suit works for him.
So you reckon it was Arsenal away and that's it?
This is the high-level analytical chat that people come here for, isn't it?
I just didn't think it was Ange.
Come on, they were all thinking it.
Okay, let's move on from that and go into more structure and our club news. Under 18s beat Reading 3-0 at home, 3 wins in a row. They now sit 5th. They play West Brom on Saturday. The under 21s last night, Monday night, won 2-0 at Stoke with goals from Niall John and Jamie Donnelly. Penalty takes it like Harry Kane, even celebrates a bit like. Did I say Harry Kane? He who shall not be named.
Takes a better free kick. It actually hits the target.
Who doesn't take a better free kick? They're top of the league with 5 wins from 5. We're going to put the table up on the screen here. Again, if you're listening to us, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify by making your screen bigger and pressing play. Here is the Premier League 2 table with the Lily Whites top of the table. Played 5, won 5, scored 17, conceded 1. Level on points with Fulham. 3 points clear of Arsenal and Reading. They play Chelsea next Monday in Stevenage, so if you can get yourself down to that 7 o'clock kickoff. So that's going really well.
1 goal conceded. My boy Alfie Dorrington at the back. By the way, I watched the highlights of that game. His passing range was phenomenal as well.
Yeah. So well done to both academy teams winning yet again. Something else that happened recently is the fans forum. I think it divided less opinion than I thought. I think most people thought it went down pretty well. Levy was there. fielding a few questions, and obviously you get the questions,
Vetted.
That's the word I was looking for. The thing that struck me was Levy admitting that Mourinho and Conte were managers he brought in. He felt under pressure from players as well, he said, which kind of surprised me. I thought it was maybe just the fans that really wanted this trophy, but players as well. And he admitted that it didn't work.
Well, he couldn't admit otherwise, could he?
No.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think we made the point on this pod that there was a sort of feeling whether those managers were appointed to appease a certain player who perhaps was desperate to win trophies at that time, but in doing so, it betrayed the DNA and the philosophy of the club. Yeah. But I thought the forum as a whole was good. It was positive. We as fans have been asking for more communication from the club. That seems to be forthcoming. Levy then went on to do his interview with, I want to say Bloomberg, but it might not have been. And there's always, I don't think the guy can win. There's always the accusations, this wasn't asked, that wasn't asked. I think in the fans forum I would have, if I had managed to go, I would have liked to ask about the relationship between Tavistock and Tavistock Investments and Tottenham Hotspur, and actually make it all clear to us, are these properties going up using the funds of Tottenham, because people seem to think that's coming.
Pretty dull question.
but you know what I mean? Like, these are the sorts of things that actually is an opportunity to say, clear this up for us.
Well,
Where is this coming
maybe
from?
That's the vetting that happened and they weren't
clear this
to.
up for us, for those that were wondering.
Maybe that's why I wasn't allowed to go.
Maybe that's why you weren't allowed to go.
I wasn't chosen.
Other bits of club news, Luka Vuskovic signing from Hajduk Split. He won't join until summer 2025. There's been talk about it a couple of weeks ago, but club announced it yesterday, Monday, I think. So really one for the future, but supposedly very, very good player. Linked with Chelsea, but who isn't, Man City, PSG. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we discussed it a couple of weeks ago. It can only be positive. Looks like a big boy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Sure.
16.
16?
Yeah.
Blimey.
Wow. So let's go on to Sunday. Jake, you were at your wedding. And you saw
my wedding.
No, you were at a wedding.
I was at a wedding.
You saw the team come out.
I did.
And there it is, Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Sarr-Bissouma, Kulusevski, Maddison, Johnson, which was the only change for Solomon, and Son up front. Happy with the lineup?
And guess what my first thought was?
What was your first thought?
This very seat where we discussed this last week, and I said, well, Gary said, I want him to play Johnson, and I said, I want him to play Johnson, but I don't think he will. And there you go. There he was, Brennan Johnson, given his first start in our biggest game of the season so far. And I was delighted. Why not? I mean, he had a really good 10 minutes or so when he came on. Obviously, he's looked a good player for Forest. And I saw that team, and that was, I mean, let's be honest, that was the only kind of area in question, wasn't it? I think if we're honest.
I think there might have been a question of whether he starts Højbjerg to shore up the midfield.
Ooh, you thought so?
In my head.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know whether, because I really like Sarr, but he can be a little bit, wild's the wrong word, naive at times.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether, and actually after 25 minutes I thought maybe he should have, but as we'll discuss, I'm glad he didn't, because I think they all grew into the game. But Gary, thoughts on the starting 11?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, the right 11, and I think it's probably the 11 that most of us would have wanted to see. The one question would have been perhaps, should Johnson be on the right and Kulusevski on the left? Because I felt that the area to exploit was where Zinchenko leaves that left-back area and goes walkies into midfield thinking it's prime Zidane. And I just thought that if we could have worked Johnson down that wing, then we could have really hurt them. And in fact, when we did start to hurt them, it was when we started to go a little bit more direct. And we got in behind them a couple of times. That's where the first goal came from Kulusevski. But look, it's the right 11. Without a doubt, can't argue with that at all.
Okay, so game starts, and I think it was a difficult first 10-15 minutes. It was always likely to be Arsenal. I didn't think they came out all guns blazing, but they dominated possession. Vicario makes a good save from Gabriel Jesus, and then we go 1-0 down. Udogie had a bit of a tough start, not as tough as I thought Gary Neville said, by the way. He really gave him
Gary
punches
Neville
from what I
was I found it to be bizarre commentary, and also Neville was saying that was coming. I didn't feel like it was coming at all.
I think I was saying to the guys I was watching it with, if it was, the old adage, it was boxing match, Arsenal were winning that opening 20 minutes or half an hour on points, weren't they? Very much so. They had the possession. We were we didn't look in too much trouble. We were holding our own.
Gary's face disagrees.
We
didn't create, but they actually didn't. There was the possession stats came up in them first 20 minutes, and actually the territorial domination was theirs. We were knocking it about at the back, but actually we had like something like 58% possession.
Yeah, but
at
that's
that
because
point.
it was just passing it around.
But they weren't doing anything. But we weren't
could get
letting
Ali
them
on
do
with the old
anything.
field
Listen, I'm
tilt.
not saying they were. Like by no means am I saying that we were under the pump. They were playing us off the park. I just think they shaded the opening 20 minutes.
But the point is, I didn't see the goal. I wasn't sat there going, "It's coming, it's coming, it's coming," and that's the kind of point that Gary Neville was sort of saying.
Yeah,
I just
I agree.
vehemently
I
disagree
agree,
with
but
that.
Look, it did come.
Yeah.
Saka cuts inside. I think Johnson and Udogie possibly hadn't played together before and shouldn't let Saka go inside that easily. Smacks it, and Romero again. Gary Neville criticised him, saying Romero should do better there. I'm not quite sure what Romero.
Instinct,
that
isn't
I
it?
thought was harsh. I think the thing about Neville is I think he can be particularly harsh on defenders and fullbacks in particular because obviously it comes from a very high bar that he set for a few years. So I think sometimes you have to take it with a bit of a pinch. He's not gonna criticise. I don't think maybe midfielders and strikers in the same way, but he doesn't know the position as well. And he also made a reference, I think, to Udogie. I can't remember exactly the words he used, but he basically said his head had gone for about 10 minutes. It was he got booked and then he gave the ball away and he said he's in trouble here. And you thought, well,
He gave a very poor pass to Vicario.
He did, didn't he? You know. But he's a young player at the end of the
No
day.
problem with him.
No,
at all.
no
I thought
problem.
he grew into the game and he was excellent. So we're 1-0 down, and we nearly go 2-0 down with the Maddison giving the ball away to Jesus in our own area. Terrible finish, absolutely terrible finish. I think if we do that against Liverpool on Saturday, you expect, or against a few other clubs,
Anyone else?
yeah, almost anyone else maybe. You expect your striker to bury it, but he didn't. But we carried. What I liked was we carried on playing that way, and I'd say about 5-10 minutes later, we finally got to grips with their press and we knocked it about. And then we have that lovely move that ends in Johnson missing a chance. It was a brilliant save from Raya. But for the next 5-10 minutes, we really dominated the game. And actually, you said like you didn't feel like the Arsenal goal was coming. It actually felt like a goal for Spurs was coming.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We did get a grip on it. We had a shaky start. I think that's to be expected. This is a young team. My concern going into the game, and I think I might have said last week, was the first 15-20 minutes. I thought they would put us under, and actually I felt pretty comfortable for that first 15-20 minutes.
Well, on that, going through this team, only two of those players in the team started the game at Arsenal last season, Son and Romero. I think you've got 6 North London derby debuts in that team: Vicario, Porro, Van der Veen, Udogie, Johnson and Maddison. Never played in a North London derby before. So whilst that's great because they haven't got PTSD from losing there every year, there was bound to be a bit of nerves.
Yeah, and you've already picked up on the fact that some of the communication between Udogie and Johnson playing together for the first time. This is the thing, right? Is I don't know if we're jumping ahead of ourselves here, but Arsenal fans have been reacting, saying, "Oh, they're celebrating it like a win," and that's not the case at all. I go back to what Ange said in the build-up to the game, and he focused, and this drew some criticism from some quarters as well, on he was being less concerned about the result than the performance, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's all about the result against the North London derby." But this is a guy that is building something for the next 3, 4, 5 years. That's quite clear. So for him, the performance and the direction, how the team play, is all important. And I think when we are talking about how we feel about the 2-2 draw, it's not that we're celebrating the draw, and people shouldn't get this confused. I mean, I don't imagine any Arsenal fans be listening to this. It's not about the point away at the Emirates. It's about the fact that we went there, we dominated possession by a long way. We had more passes than them. We had more. I mean, I'm not one that buys into XG and all of that, but sometimes it does tell a story. And in this case, it suits my narrative. The XG from open play was much higher for us than it was for them. We created the more clear-cut chances. I think it was Les Ferdinand afterwards said Spurs scored 2 clean goals. They scored a deflection and a penalty. And it was about the performance. The performance, I think, is something that Ange would have wanted to see. And that was what was worth celebrating more so than the point. We've gone there. And I don't think many teams will go there and be as dominant on the ball, as comfortable on the ball, and as confident on the ball as we were, and create as many good opportunities as we did.
Whilst I agree, you have jumped the gun. So
apologies.
Well, I was about
Sorry,
to say,
have I messed you up?
following on from what you were saying, that when Maddison gave that ball away, and Jesus, he put it over, didn't he?
Yeah.
It didn't matter to the players, the Tottenham players out on the pitch. They weren't going to start hoofing it long, but just because they've been caught in possession once on the edge of the area. It was almost like, right, we'll play even further back. They were passing it along the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is what I want to be seeing. It doesn't matter what happens. there is a clear philosophy and a clear way of playing, and we are sticking to this no matter what. And people used to almost laugh at Guardiola a bit, and when Klopp came in and sometimes their defenders would get caught, people would say, are you going to tell them to do anything different? And they would say, absolutely not. We're going to do it better next time. And this is, and we're now in that, we have a manager who follows that way of playing, and he says, I'm going to back my players 100%. You've got Van der Ven, who's come in 22, his 6th Premier League match. You've got Udogie, who's really young. You said Porro's first North London derby. You've got the 2 guys in midfield, and they know that whatever happens, the manager backs them. And you can't ask much more than that.
If they make a mistake, Ange will come out and say, that was on me.
That was
I've
on me.
asked them to do that.
That's how we're going to play, and we're going to do it better next time.
So, yeah, so we played some great football for 10 minutes. We are behind. Johnson misses a chance. He then misses another chance when Raya sort of flaps at that cross from Sarr. He then sends Saka out for a hot dog. I mean, he terms him superbly, crosses it in, Son sweeps it in. It's a really brilliant finish, by the way. And we go into half-time 1-1. I think I remember tweeting. Go on.
I just want to come back to that goal, and I thought, of the 2 keepers, the cheap option versus the option that everybody wanted, the cheap option came out
on top
and covered himself very much in
really
glory.
Well.
Raya made a very good save, but that equaliser, I thought he was dreadful for it. Like, he's pushed the ball right back into play.
Got his feet all wrong.
Yeah.
And all he could do at that point was flap it out, and grateful that he did.
But
I thought Johnson's finish wasn't great, by the way, but never mind.
He scuffed it a bit, didn't he? Didn't quite catch it, and I think if he had, it would have been a goal, and that was what made the save look probably really good. That it was in a bit of a slow motion. But Son's movement for the goal, the first goal that he scored, that run
across,
that's not something I don't think we've seen a whole. I mean, if Harry Kane does that, you go, yeah, well, that's what he does. Or I shouldn't have mentioned him, sorry. But this is what when people were saying, oh, maybe we'll see Son go through the middle, we think of Son kind of
over the top,
one-on-one, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But movement, diagonal run, and the flip with his left foot across the goalie,
Yeah.
fantastic. And didn't you just love how he runs towards the Arsenal fans? And sometimes players then sort of turn around and go the other way. He's going in the corner flag, giving it this. And you also think of Son we think of Son as such a nice guy, don't we?
He was pumped.
He was pumped, and he knows he's probably going to take V's, abuse, whatever. He doesn't give a fuck. He's going into the Arsenal fans saying, have some of that.
So
I've never heard you swear.
I've never heard you swear. Half-time comes and goes, and I tweeted out, because I'm a pessimist like that, what time's the Arsenal penalty then? And 5 minutes later, they get a penalty. We can sit here and we can debate for 20 minutes about whether it was a penalty or not.
Was it a joke based on statistical fact?
There's a lot of penalties in that game.
Right.
Normally to us, we tend to get the penalties in this fixture. They've not had that many over the years. They get a penalty. Like I said, I think we can debate for a while about that. I think it's a penalty. I do care for your opinions, but I want just a straight answer. Penalty, yes or no?
I'm
One
going to say
word answer.
I'm going to say yes now.
Thank you.
I was saying no at the time.
Jake?
Well, after 4 pints.
I'll say more than no at the time.
Jake?
With the new rules, yes.
Yeah, it's a penalty. So he sticks away the penalty, and everyone's fawning over how Saka takes such a great penalty. Well, or since Euro has taken such great penalties, I seem to recall him slamming one wide against West Ham last season, which basically cost him the title.
Also, not to give him a hard time. I think Vicario made it a bit easier for him than maybe he would have liked. It felt like he went a bit early. Vicario.
I think when it goes down the middle, it's always just the keeper's always going to look like a mug.
It was a good penalty, but then 89 seconds later, or that's 89 seconds from the goal, about 30 seconds from kickoff, Maddison pickpockets Jorginho, and Son sticks that away, and it's a lovely finish. And we talked about limbs, didn't we, recently? Well, there were some limbs in that away end.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. What a picture that is.
Again, we're putting this up on our YouTube channel as we record. Head over there to see this wonderful picture of Maddison leaping in the air. And just what I like with these photos is you can find something else every time you look at a different person. I don't know how many people are in this shop, but they're all doing different things, but all sharing the same moment. It's beautiful. Yeah, hang it in the Louvre, as they say.
It's a great
hang
photo.
it in the lane.
What was interesting about that goal is Maddison's come out since and said that he and Son were talking about pressing on quicker to the Arsenal midfielders. I just thought Jorginho was dreadful for the goal, but Maddison was so alive to the fact that he does dally on it a little bit. It was so quick onto him. ball that Maddison played to
Perfect.
Son was absolutely... And what I loved about this was, I was saying to some people that once Maddison wins the ball there, and you can see Son going through, I never had any doubt that it was going to be 2-2, because you knew that Maddison would find the right pass at the right moment. You knew that Son wouldn't have to break his stride, and you knew Son would finish it.
It was perfect.
And those are two top-class players that when they're in that position, it was done. It was 2-2.
It was the way that he kept Saliba guessing, Maddison, right until the last moment, that by the time he played the pass, Saliba didn't know if Maddison was going to shoot, whether he was going to go round him or he was going to pass it, and Saliba was stuck.
He just drew him in.
Just drew him right
and
in.
right at the right
The
moment.
way he
It's
positioned
brilliant.
It's
himself.
coming to my head of when Sissoko, we had that situation against Liverpool.
God.
Ah,
But
was Son and
this is the
Sissoko,
point that I
wasn't
made. You've got Sissoko against Liverpool at Anfield. You've got Zakora in the cup final against Chelsea. You know, these players go through and you're like, well, I'm not even getting excited here. It's pointless. But in that situation, 2-on-1, Maddison and Son, it was never anything but a goal. And that's just the sign of two class players and the faith that
but
we
the
have in
most
them.
satisfying thing for me was that Tottenham and Arsenal, Maddison made a similar error, didn't they, that we talked about, but the way we pounced
Capitalised.
on their error in
Yeah.
a way that they didn't manage to pounce on ours
Yeah.
was nice.
So not long after that, Maddison hyperextends his knee, and we're all fearing the worst at this point. He plays on and gets taken off. Ange said he wasn't actually 100% before the game. He also took Son off. Do we feel that was him declaring at that point and was sort of saying, "I'll take 2-2 now"?
No,
No.
I don't think Ange does. I don't think.
But
he
then it
does
was
declare.
odd to take off Son, who's
Is that like an Aussie cricket joke?
well, no, but he
No, I don't think so. I think Ange always wants to try and score more than the opposition, and I think Son. Am I right in thinking Son hasn't lasted the full 90 in most of the games
yeah, he
we've
hasn't,
played?
not every week for sure. But
So-
I can understand taking Maddison off if he's not been fit and he's sort of had that knee problem on Sunday. But taking Son off, I thought, I'm not criticising Ange. It was great. The whole performance was great, but I thought that was a little bit odd.
I don't know. I think there was maybe a bit of that in it. I think as well, you got to get Richarlison on the pitch after he turned the game around against Sheffield United. You've got to give him that opportunity. But once you've taken off both Johnson and Son and you've removed that threat of the electric pace behind them, that's really the thing that's going to scare them the most, and you're removing Maddison as well, that's the only guy really that's going to put the ball through, it was a little bit like, where could we get another goal from now? So
I also think though, he's not saving him for anything. So it was 79 minutes or 80th minute. He's not saving him. So there's obviously there's a reason behind it. And I think he brings on Richarlison because he's got the data. Maybe Son's getting tired by that point. He's done a lot of running. Who knows? You know, Richarlison comes on and gives you energy. Yeah, he doesn't have the kind of pace, and obviously he's not a good finisher, but he'll give you that energy, and he will give you something for what is going to be 15, maybe 20 minutes if there was 10 minutes of extra time. I don't. What you think he's gone? Well, I'm gonna stick with where we've got. It's not a defensive substitution, is it? He's not shoring things up by taking Son off and replacing him with Richarlison.
A bloke on 2 goals coming off. I thought it was a bit odd. Anyway, I'm not Ange, and he knows a lot more than me. So all the talk pre-match was about them destroying us at the carpet. I mean, they call it the carpet. What is wrong with them?
they're just sickening. Everything about them. It's just so cringe. They're the
But,
most
yeah.
cringe club. I'm going to stop because otherwise I'm going to go off on one.
Merson said they would slaughter us. He's since come out and sort of giving us a little bit of credit. Arsenal overhyped.
What's he seeing though? Where's he?
Well,
has he
they're
not
over-
watched the first 5 matches?
But they're overhyping themselves, and I think they thought
But the
that
funny thing is that, and they will admit, they have not been very good in the first 5 games, and we have been very good in our first
but
5
they refuse.
games.
I think they've refused to see that, and their whole thing this season. Well, you've not played anybody yet. Man United are rubbish. You know, we've
which
been,
they played.
which they played, and United have been poor. But you've only played Sheffield United, Bournemouth, Burnley, and Brentford.
Well, who have they played? Nottingham Forest and
Fulham,
right.
Incidentally,
Palace. I think.
they have played United and they beat them 3-1. And Gary Neville's commentary in the first half was so lopsided to me that it almost felt like he wanted Arsenal to beat us in order to vindicate the United performance,
Well,
because
he's
he sees United as Tottenham as more competition to United than Arsenal. I'm sorry, Gaz, you're wrong, mate, because we're clearly far better than United.
He's also tipped Arsenal to win the league this season, so he's got
To keep going with that.
he's got a hill to die on.
Okay, so are we happy with the point? I saw this tweet if I can find it on X, someone said, Prof Spur said,
Are they still called tweets even though they're on X?
They're called posts,
Right,
I think. Spurs fans are not at all happy with the draw. We're just responding to unfounded predictions that we get battered, which we just talked about. I'm disappointed. Should have had 3 points. It's a bit of a mixed bag there. Yes, slightly disappointed that we didn't get 3 points. I feel that they were possibly there for the taking with the players that they had out and players that got injured and substitutions, Rice coming off and blah, blah, blah. Disagree that Spurs fans are not happy with the draw. I think we'd all have taken that pre-game and even post-game when you look at it.
Like I said, it's the performance that I was most enthused with, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember going to the Emirates and feeling... I did feel comfortable during the game. I didn't feel as though they were going to hurt us. I didn't feel like we were about to commit suicide, apart from that one Maddison thing. I felt we were in control. I felt we had a game plan. I felt we knew what we were doing. And he says, disappointed that we didn't take 3 points. I don't think you can ever be disappointed when you go away from home against a top 6 team and come back with something. But, there was that moment where we broke down the right-hand side. Kulusevski's played it into Porro. We've knocked about brilliantly at the back. And Porro has only got to get it past Gabriel, and Son's got his hat-trick.
Yeah.
And with the quality that Porro has, that was the moment. That was about 78 minutes, that move. And if that
Great move.
It was a brilliant move, and that was the moment. And I just backed Porro to have either got it past Gabriel and for someone to have an easy finish, or cut it back onto his left foot, send Gabriel off to get a burger, and then you got a clean shot on goal. That was the moment. And when you look at that, I can't think of an opportunity that Arsenal created where you go, oof, they cut us open there. They should have done that.
No, not after the Jesus goal. No, certainly
No.
not. No, they had a few corners at the end, a couple of which that weren't even corners, and they had a couple of pot shots, but nothing.
But that's the point.
Nothing.
Is I was happy with the point. You can't be disappointed with it. Slightly rue the fact that we missed a great opportunity to take all 3 points, but really happy with the performance and the direction of the team in the first big test. And people can no longer say, you've played rubbish teams. We haven't. We've gone to the Emirates where we normally fold, and we could have won.
Yeah.
Are you able just to put the tweet back on again?
Sure.
Or we're just responding to unfounded predictions that we get battered. And the other thing is, I think the reason why I agree with you, Gaz, for once, is that
You did last week.
I
That's
did last
twice
week.
now.
I think, but I also think you
I'm
can
going to make a log of these.
I think it's the way, it's the performance we've put in, but also you've got to be happy with getting a point away from home at the team that could have won the league last season for a start. But I think the reason also why maybe people are disappointed, like you, is the first 5 games we've had. Off the back of that, you're looking at us going, actually, maybe we could be better.
No. We sat here last week and I said a draw because I couldn't bring myself to say I actually think Arsenal were favourites to win. I didn't expect us to go there and beat them. I'm disappointed because we had the opportunity, and because of how well we played and how well we controlled the game, I thought the opportunity was there. But it wasn't to do with the first 5 games, as positive as they were.
Okay.
Would you like a stat?
Always.
So there was a bit of banter flying around this week that Spursy was so Spursy that they were the most Spursy team in Premier League history, where we'd given up the most points from winning position in the history of the competition. Well, Sunday was our 428th point from behind in Premier League history, which puts us standalone top as the team that has come back to gain the most points in Premier League history.
Well, and also this season we've gone behind in 4 of 6 and we haven't lost yet. So
Taking 8 from 14.
there you go.
8
So
from 14 and from behind.
We're
Not Spursy at all.
not.
Bottle,
near-
courage.
Yeah, we're nowhere near as Spursy
Brave.
as people will say.
Yeah.
So possibly the first big test for Ange that game.
No, listen, I can't agree with that statement, because I think if you are a new manager and you could handpick your first home game, it wouldn't be United.
Yeah.
It just whatever United team it is, it wouldn't be United. You'd want to get off to a fairly comfortable start.
Yeah.
And I think that United game was a big test. But certainly, this is the game that says to me we can go away and mix it away from home with the big 6, and we're a serious football team.
Okay, all right. So he's had 2 tests, real tests. Man United at home, Arsenal away. Huge test on Saturday coming up against a team that we very, very rarely beat. No win in 12 against Liverpool now. I've not beaten them since 2017. At Wembley, when Klopp took off Lovren after half an hour. So they are a bogey team. Had some very, very close shaves against them, none more so than the 4-3 last year when we were 3-0 down. Thoughts going into
Well,
Saturday?
I actually think, speaking of first big test, I think it now gets harder and harder in a way because the expectation is there. Suddenly we've gone away at Arsenal. We're unbeaten in 6.
Yeah.
We've drawn 2, one of which is away at Arsenal. As we said, we've come back in all these games. Now, sorry, but I'm thinking that we've got a decent chance going into the Liverpool game. Liverpool have been a bit up and down. Obviously, they're second in the league, but the way they've been performing, you sort of feel like they're definitely defensively vulnerable. So are we. You'd back us to score 2 goals at least, as we have done in every match so far. Yeah. Maybe we can keep them out. I mean, Van der Ven, how good was he at the weekend?
He's
had this is 6th game in the Premier League, having come from abroad with a new manager. He's a young guy. He's got young Udogie on his left as well.
Yeah. Another one who's the cheaper option ahead of Tapsoba, by the way. But I mean, he has been a phenomenon. Listen, I can't say that I saw him at all before he joined Tottenham. I didn't know what to expect, but my God, he has settled so quickly, and he's got every attribute to be a top
He's going to be
defender.
up against Salah on Saturday. That will be a real
Well,
test.
it will be him and Udogie, so I think it will be a test for Salah actually, because. You know,
nice spin on that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do, because I think it's unusual that Salah will have faced 2 defenders with such speed, such power, and both very, very good defenders. I think it will be. I'm really interested to see the battle between Udogie and Robertson, who I really don't like. I think he's a really nasty player sometimes, Andy Robertson. But I'm interested to see that, and I think there's great battles all over that pitch. But this is a Spurs team that has the power, the physicality, and the pace, I think, to hurt Liverpool.
And you'd imagine that after the way the game ended, or after that first 20 minutes or so, that Udogie should be full of confidence as well, having come through that tough test, passed it. I mean, I thought he would be. When he got booked and the 2 central midfielders got booked, I thought there's no way we're finishing this game with.
I thought not a chance.
They were all booked inside the first half an hour, weren't they? So to come through that as well, I mean, playing at home
showed real maturity in that.
Yeah, game. Absolutely. Good luck.
There were a couple of times when I could see that he wanted to go and challenge Saka, but instead he just stood him up and pushed him away in the opposite direction, and that ability to learn and adapt in game is sensational from Udogie. I think it would be a great battle against Salah, but I think Salah is a man not at the peak of his powers, starting the decline, and Udogie is a guy very much coming up. So I think it would be a fantastic battle.
Shall we talk to someone who knows a lot about Liverpool?
Be a good idea, wouldn't it?
But in saying that, should we talk to a man who knows a lot about Liverpool, played a lot for Liverpool, but actually scored 3 goals for Tottenham? Let's do that right now. Delighted to be joined by a man who made 737 appearances for Liverpool, second on their all-time list. Welcome to the show, Jamie Carragher.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Jamie. Let's start with Liverpool straight away. Disappointing campaign last season, lowest finish since 2016. Started this season brilliantly, however. 18 matches unbeaten in all competitions. Is it fair to say that Liverpool have slightly gone under the radar so far this season?
Yeah, they have. I'm not sure why, really, because, I mean, Liverpool have been the biggest challengers to City over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. They've had a season off, if you like, where basically the team that Liverpool had come to an end. And, I think it's right to say that, even from the staff and the manager, they probably just didn't spot it early enough, really. And that's why the season was so poor. So they've done a lot of work in the summer, moving players out, bringing players in. But it's funny because when you say 18 games unbeaten, it's a great run that goes back to last season. But I think Liverpool supporters are delighted that, the start Liverpool have made, but it still feels like there's something nagging in the back of your head. That's something still not 100% right. And it's probably, not what it was, a couple of years ago. But I think we've got to accept that because this is almost the start of a new team, really. So we should be almost judging this team against Klopp's sort of second or third year at Liverpool rather than sort of what was going on, a couple of years ago.
Jamie, you mentioned a new team. Obviously, there's been a lot of new faces on the pitch, probably not just over the summer, but the last year or so. From a Tottenham fan's point of view, from the outside, it feels like under Klopp that Liverpool have rarely got big money signings wrong. Maybe Naby Keita didn't work out, but more often than not, a lot of them have come in and they've all done really well. What do you know? how have they managed to do that? Like, what the process is behind that? Because we've at Tottenham had a few signings over the years that we spent lots of money on that just haven't really worked out.
Name names.
Well, it's funny that because Liverpool, listen, I think Liverpool's analytics team behind the scenes was a big part of FSG, the ownership coming in. They wanted to do this Moneyball style of club that we know was famous over in the States. So they brought it over here and it's worked brilliantly. But what you've got to remember is that team of people was still in place before Klopp got there. And it wasn't that successful. So I think sometimes I would say we give too much praise to the scouts, the analytics team, because I think most people can spot a top player, or not spot the top player, because that's easy. Maybe spotting someone who is maybe gone under the radar and would work in your team and in your manager's setup. But a big thing that we all forget is, once you sign someone, people always say it's all about your recruitment. It is, but then the manager has still got to find a way to get the best out of that player. The players he's playing alongside, the system, does it work? The way the manager sees the game, does that align with this player that he's bringing in? Because different players suit, different managers and different clubs. And to be honest, sometimes I think when people talk about Liverpool and how successful they've been in the transfer market, a lot of the credit's got to go to Jurgen Klopp. Because a great thing in management is actually coaching those players, making them better, making them believe that they can play for, Liverpool, Tottenham, whoever it may be. And that's something that I think sometimes is forgotten. Because the thing for me is Liverpool, to be fair, have changed their business, if you like, behind the scenes. Michael Edwards is really famous, a big name in football, and he's moved on, and different people have filled those roles. And that's been something quite contentious with Liverpool supporters who, sort of want Michael Edwards back. And listen, he was part of that brilliant sort of journey under Jurgen Klopp and the ownership. So he was obviously doing a great job, but we shouldn't forget the man who's in charge of the football club, the man who's picking the team, what he's getting out of players on a day-to-day basis. Because he's a great manager, he will get more out of them than other managers would, maybe at different football clubs, or, Liverpool's next manager as well.
Jamie, that's interesting that you mentioned Liverpool's next manager, because I've been thinking a lot about the importance for a football club to identify the right managers. And actually, I was going back, and Spurs had Bill Nick from 58-74. Liverpool had Bill Shankly from 59-74. Since then, Liverpool have had 13 managers up until Jurgen Klopp. Tottenham have had 32. Manchester United have had 8 managers since Sir Alex Ferguson left in 2013. You're a one-club man. What is it about Liverpool? Because they seem to have an aura, a philosophy, a DNA that every other club seems to strive to achieve, an identity, and Liverpool have it. What is it?
I think Liverpool is unique in how the supporters look at the manager. Liverpool is a manager's club. It's not a player's club for me. So when you think of like the great times Liverpool have had in the past, and you'd always think of the manager, if you're Liverpool supporter, you think, Shankly, Paisley, Fagan, Rafa winning the Champions League. This era is seen as not the era of, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah. This era will be seen as Jurgen Klopp's era. And that might be different at other clubs. I certainly think it is, but the adulation the manager gets at Liverpool Football Club is like nothing he will ever get at any other club in world football. And that, I think, for a manager gives him power, certainly. And it gives him sort of like a standing that he's never going to get anywhere else. So hence the managers, I think, want to stay. No one ever leaves Liverpool, really, as a manager to go anywhere else. And Klopp's going to end up probably being here longer than he's been in any other club because of that reason as well. And Liverpool, from my own experience, it'll be the same now. There's never any player power, really. And we are a huge football club, one of the biggest in the world, but you never hear of the players, a manager's lost his restaurant, because the manager always used to have so much power. And even if a manager got off to a bad start, the only one I can think of where they had to change them was Roy Hodgson, because it just wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
The supporters just wasn't having it. But even a Gerard Houllier, when I was there, his first season was really poor. Rafa Benitez, I know we won the Champions League, but there was a lot of ups and downs that season, and it wasn't great at times. But there was never any question that the manager would be changed. It was a bit like, the players aren't good enough. We've got a top manager, and we're going to give him time to get it right. So normally, most Liverpool managers would get at least 3 or 4 years before there was any talk of him moving on. The only one who's been different, probably since Bill Shankly, was Roy Hodgson.
Talking about managers, Jamie, Klopp coming up to his 8th anniversary in charge. Postecoglou's been here 6 games. How have you seen the start to his tenure as Spurs manager?
Well, he reminds me a little bit of when Klopp first came into Liverpool, in that it feels like not even Spurs supporters, it feels like everybody else loves him, don't they? And I thought Klopp had that effect when he first came in, because his press conferences, he was a personality, he was a character, and I think everyone's just bought into Postecoglou. Being in the Premier League as such, even though he's your manager, it feels like everyone's enjoying listening to him, and he just seems like, as everybody said about Klopp when he first came in, you'd love to go for a pint with him. That's the type of sort of guy he comes across as. And just the way he answers, the way he comes across is great. But, when you're watching his team play, it's been such a contrast from where Tottenham were. So I can't believe how well Tottenham are doing, really, because it is such a shift in terms of the football. And yes, I know he's brought players in, but there's still a lot of players there who are used to a certain style of football under Conte and managers before that. So to come in and do what he's done, not just the results, but the actual performances already. And you think it can only get better once he brings more players in next few transfer windows, the players sort of working with him every day on the training pitch, which this season I think they've got to make the most of. Yeah. Because you're not in Europe. Yeah. So there's a great chance you'll be back in Europe next season. So you won't have as much, training time on the training pitch to, hone the techniques or the positions that they take up, because it is a little bit different. We've never really seen what he's doing in the Premier League before. We've seen it, I know the fullbacks go into midfield, but it's slightly different to how Pep does it and other teams do it. So it is a little bit different, but it started really well, and I think there is a feeling in the game now you'd probably like to see Tottenham do well because the manager comes across so well.
Looking ahead to Saturday's game, Liverpool very much a bogey side for Tottenham. The only team we've not beaten yet at the new stadium in the Premier League. Haven't beaten Liverpool since 2017, that game where Klopp dragged Lovren after half an hour at Wembley, which seemed to be a bit of a turning point for Liverpool at that point. How do you see Saturday's game going?
I think there'll be goals. I think right now, watching Liverpool, and I said that before, the nagging doubt in the back of your mind is that the opposition can, get a couple of chances. Always look they're going to score a goal. And Tottenham have obviously got really good firepower. But I also think watching Tottenham, it always feels like similar in that you always feel like there'll be a bit of a chance you should be able to score. Really, I think the game could be 2-2. I think there'll be lots of goals. I don't see how either side could really keep a clean sheet. I'd be very surprised if either team do. And Liverpool right now have got so much firepower, not just on the pitch, but off the bench as well. So as the game opens up, that could be a problem for Tottenham. But I think for Liverpool right now, I think, and how Tottenham are doing, I could see a draw, but with goals in it.
I can't let this moment pass, Jamie, without mentioning your glittering career. 737 appearances for Liverpool, 9 honours, 38 caps for England, 2 World Cups. But I can't not mention 3 own goals against Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, I mean, that must put me up there on the list, certainly the Premier League era of Tottenham legends, because you haven't got that many. So,
I always liked you playing against us.
That must put me in the top 10, really. I'm just going to try and go through them. I remember one of them was a great left foot shot. That was my first one at White Hart Lane. I tried to clear it and straight in. There was another one at Anfield. I think we won that game 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
And then the next one was...
We got one at White Hart Lane when we won 2-1.
You know what? The one at White Hart Lane, we should have won the league that season. We only lost twice all season, and one of those was that game. And you know what? We battered us for the first hour. And I tell you what it was. We used to do zonal marking, and Ledley King come up, and I just thought, I've got to win this header against Ledley King. So it was almost like I've got to just go for this ball. And I ended up going for a ball I shouldn't have really gone for because I was just in the wrong body position. And my keeper should have saved it, by the way. Does Pepe Reina listen to Echo Glory podcast?
We'll send him the link.
Well, make sure you tag him in because he should have saved it. Went right through his hands, but no one remembers that. No Spurs fan remembers that. So, yeah, and then you scored again.
Yeah, Pavlyuchenko right at the end.
Redknapp told him to come on and run around a bit.
Yeah, it was under Redknapp. Yeah. We started 2 points from 8 games under. Well, Redknapp came in with 2 points from 8 games, and that was a big win for Spurs. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so they're the 3, and but listen, I always had a soft spot for Spurs. Going back to when I started watching football in the mid-80s, because he's allowed Everton to go and win the league when I was an Everton fan in 84, 85. So Tottenham were the big rivals, and the big game at White Hart Lane in the midweek towards the end of the season. Andy Gray and Trevor Steven got the goals. So it was always a little bit of a soft spot for Spurs.
Good. We love to hear that.
Cheers,
we love to hear that. Just a little. So you said that's your prediction for the weekend, 2-2. You reckon?
I'm going to go 2-2. Yeah, I think there'll definitely be goals. Yeah, and I just can't see either side keeping a clean sheet. I think Liverpool have got too much firepower not to score at least one. And I still think, even when you watch the West Ham game last week, we're still giving up a few chances. I think we've got the best goalkeeper in the world, I must be honest. I think he's unbelievable. He produced an unbelievable save at the weekend from Jared Bowen. But, so yeah, we've got a top keeper you've got to get past.
We'll do our best. Jamie, thanks so much for talking about Liverpool and looking forward to the weekend. And 2-2, we'll take that.
Cheers, Jamie. Thank you.
Okay, but well, come on. I'm on now, so I want to know a little bit more about Spurs. Come on, what's the feeling?
Positive.
Not just this game,
well,
the team, the players.
I think what's interesting is you mentioned how well Postecoglou's got us playing, but I think more importantly than that is there is a real bond and connection between the fans and the team again, that he's developed so quickly that had gone under Mourinho and Conte, and the atmosphere was almost toxic and poisonous, and at them points it turns towards the board and so on and so forth. But we've heard nothing of that in these first 6 games, and there's the bond between the team and a real connection, and I can only see it going from strength to strength, and I'd like to think that it would turn into the same sort of bond that Liverpool fans have with Klopp and Klopp's teams.
But also, we saw on Sunday, we got, that Jesus miss when he robbed Maddison. But they didn't, they carried, if we do that against Liverpool on Sunday, you expect Salah or whoever, Núñez, to bury it. But we still carried on playing like that. This is the way we're going to play. And this is all the fans have wanted. Like Gary said, Mourinho and Conte, they almost felt like they were doing us a favour. But aside from that, the football was so dull.
But there's another factor to it as well. And Jake asked you about the recruitment. And that was important to us because our recruitment has been so bad. But actually, I think it started with Fabio Paratici. The recruitment and the quality of player coming in hasn't been just sort of hickety-picketed. It's actually been focused. It's focused, it's targeted, it's every player who's coming in, it fits into the team. Postecoglou has said quite clearly that he has the final say on everything. You're not getting these club signings that Conte was talking about previously, of which, by the way, two are in the team now, Maddison and Bissouma. So everything just seems to be a lot more cohesive all round.
Yeah, I mean, Maddison's made a big difference. Yeah. I was laughing. The stuff with the darts with Saka, what he said after the game was hilarious. Yeah, that was brilliant. The roast dinner quote was an absolute...
But he did it, character. But I don't know if you saw, he did it against Sheffield United.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sure when this is going on, but I think I'm going to do my newspaper column on Maddison. I was just thinking about it the other day. He's almost like a bit of a throwback in that. Players now are so micromanaged, you can't get at them. They've got agents, even like the club channels, everyone's all over them, and they're terrified to say anything, if they get slaughtered on social media. But he's just got a personality you can't help but warm to. And I know what he's like. Obviously, I know him from Leicester, done a few interviews on Sky with him and that. But I remember his first interview for Tottenham. He was calling the chairman Daniel, and I was like, you've only been there fucking 2 minutes. He's like, going, yeah, I had a good chat with Dan. I'm like, he's the shit. I'm like, oh my God. But like typical Maddison, you know what I mean? And he was talking about the Spursy stuff as well the other day. And I was thinking, oh my God, you know what I mean? But he's just great copy, isn't he? And listen, top player, he's been brilliant, hasn't he?
But he also kind of talks, he walks the walk as well as talk the talk. The manager's made him he's got these kind of vice captains, and he said straight in there, off the bat, 2 months in, you're going to be one of my leaders. So obviously he's somebody that the manager has kind of latched onto and really likes that as well.
But also, he took the shit. He's got the 10 off Kane. Harry Kane, you might tell me different, but probably could arguably be Tottenham's greatest ever player, really, when
hard to argue.
I'd put him right up there, probably with... I'll do a little... So, who would the options be there? Would that be Dave Mackay and Glenn Hoddle?
Dave Mackay, Hoddle, Greaves,
Blanchflower,
Kane.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So he's right in the mix, isn't he? Yeah. And just to say, I'll have that shirt. He's just got to the club. No, he's been brilliant. And listen, that I'm a little bit worried about him on Saturday, because Liverpool still haven't really got a holding midfield play. They've got McAllister playing there. That's not his role. So I think that's something Liverpool will have to keep an eye on, whether they put someone else in there or they put 2 men in there, because I think he's been that good this season. You've got to have a little plan for Maddison.
Do you expect Trent to be back?
Fitness-wise, I'm not sure, but I don't know if you'll put him... I was thinking about that. Would you put him straight into Tottenham away when you've got sort of... I know Son's been playing up front and Johnson played there, didn't he? But I'm not sure. I don't know. Listen, if he's fit, he's going to play. Yeah. But it's probably not ideal to go back in at Tottenham away with sort of the attacking power that you've got. But listen, he's that good a player. He'd have to go back in just for his passing ability. Never mind how we'll get on defensively against your attackers.
You spoke about a plan for Maddison. Would you not think about playing Trent centre mid and a bit deeper to pick up on Maddison and then sort of be that quarterback kind of role against Spurs?
Yeah, well, I mean, he ends up in there on the ball anyway. So that's not the issue. Is like what he'd be doing defensively in that role. And I've always said, I think in the future, maybe the next manager after Klopp might see him more as a midfield player and maybe by a right back in the future. I think actually for England now, when he picked the England squad or the last one, his name's with the midfield players. So I think for England, I can see the midfield being him, Declan Rice, and probably Jude Bellingham, maybe going forward into the tournament in the future as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's a question that comes up all the time with Trent, and I don't think it'll ever change. Yeah, I give it the I'll retweet and get a load of verbal off Tottenham fans.
Gary's got one story
question.
he wants to ask you.
Before Spurs played in Europe, I never thought I'd see my club play. I had the opportunity to come and see Liverpool at Anfield in 2001 against Barcelona, semi-final, second leg, Gary McAllister penalty, 1-0.
Yeah.
I was in a hotel before the game, and I think we pressed the wrong floor on the lift. And I come out the lift, and there's a Liverpool player running around the floor with the towel around him, singing the Nelly Furtado bird, "I'm like a bird, I only fly away." Any idea who that was?
It wasn't me, was it?
It was you. It was you.
I didn't normally have the towel on. You're lucky.
All right, brilliant.
Cheers, Jamie. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. You can make sure that makes the podcast.
Okay.
All right.
All the
Cheers,
best.
boys. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Cheers, Jamie. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Brilliant chat with Jamie Carragher. And nice to hear he's got a soft spot for Spurs. Not only in the goals that he scored for us.
I understood correctly that because he grew up an Everton fan, and we basically handed Everton the league when he was a young lad.
Yeah.
So that's why he likes Tottenham.
Yeah, mid-80s.
He likes Tottenham because Tottenham was Spursy. that's where it's come to.
It's as good a reason as any if you don't support him.
Yeah. Fair enough. And he stuck 3 in for us, so fair play. I always like Carra.
But he spoke very highly about Jurgen Klopp, and we talked about being at the start of our journey, and 8 years coming up now for Klopp. Wouldn't it be lovely if this was the start of 8 years for Ange?
Well, I think also, I can't remember the exact Liverpool team off the top of my head when he joined, but I feel like, and this is a good thing for us, I feel like the squad that Ange has inherited was probably at a slightly higher level of the one that Klopp maybe inherited. And obviously the players that they've managed to bring in straight away perhaps could give us, maybe it won't have to be as long as Klopp, because Klopp went a while, didn't they? They had a few years of suffering. They had 5th places, didn't they? We kept finishing ahead of them before they won anything. You hope that maybe we could manage to pull something off a bit sooner than that.
But it speaks to believing in your philosophy, sticking to your principles, and I think the point that Carra made, which I thought was excellent, actually, that what Liverpool do that other clubs don't, is they put the manager on a pedestal, the fans, and they just believe in their manager, come what may, unless it's like untenable. But and too often, even before Postecoglou started, who's this guy? And every club does it. And I'd like to think that actually maybe we do take a leaf out of the Liverpool book. And yes, Klopp is an exceptional manager, but it hasn't always been Jurgen Klopp. It's been other managers that they've just got behind, whether it's Benitez, whether it's Houllier. And as a consequence, these managers have gone on and won. And that's what he said is the difference between Liverpool and all other clubs. And I found it a fascinating answer. So I really hope we do get behind Postecoglou, come what may. Let him install his philosophy and his principles, unyielding to anything else. And let's just live or die by it.
While you were talking, I wanted to go back to you said you can't remember the first Klopp team that he inherited. His first game was against Tottenham, 0-0 draw at White Hart Lane in October 2015. I'm just going to read you that Liverpool team because it's really not that bad. Mignolet, Klein, Moreno, Chan, Skirtle, Sacco, bit rubbish. Milner, Lucas, Leiva, Origi, Lallana, Coutinho.
That defence is not good.
Yeah, he inherited bits and pieces. I almost think that Ange has inherited a better team than that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, that Liverpool team, but maybe Ange inherited a better team.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm hoping, if it can be a start of something, that actually we're starting from a higher point, so that's even better, isn't it?
No,
Okay.
100%, yeah.
How are we looking for Saturday? Again, like I said, we've not beaten them for a long, long time. We've had some close shaves, like I said. We had a 2-2 draw against them a couple of seasons ago, which could have gone either way. Prediction, Gary?
It's a really hard one to call. You know, most games this season I've had a strong feeling as to what the result could be. I did feel like we could get a draw against Arsenal. This one, you could say any result and make a case for it. I'm going to hope for a Spurs win. I agree with Carragher that it will be a high-scoring game, and I'm just going to hope that it's 3-2 to us and not 3-2 to them.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. Could it be 3-3? Maybe. You imagine
It could be anything.
As I said before, we've scored 2 goals at least in every game, so I fancy us to score 2. Do you fancy us to stop them scoring 2? Probably not. They've been on really red-hot form. I guess it's whether somebody can nick a third or not.
I saw bits of their game against West Ham on Sunday, and West Ham could have had more than the one they got. Alisson made a couple of good saves, as Jamie alluded to. I think we're going to beat them 2-1. I really do. There's a real feel-good factor, and we've had 2 home games. As fans will be buzzing to get back in the ground. The atmosphere is going to be really, really good. Well, how would you feel if we do take just 2 points from Arsenal and Liverpool? Is that something to go, you know what, I'll take that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I wanted 4 out of these 2 games. I wanted the draw at the Emirates. I wanted the win at the Emirates, but I think the draw at the Emirates, being realistic and go and beat Liverpool. But I think if you take 2 and you stay undefeated, and the performances, and I go back to this, if the performance was very good against Arsenal, that's what I was most excited about. It was a very good performance, I felt. And if the performance is similarly good against Liverpool, and we only get the draw, then we can look at our first 7 games and say we're unbeaten. There's so many positives in there. We probably back ourselves to beat most teams. But if you're not quite at this point getting past a very good Arsenal team and a very good Liverpool team, it ain't the end of the world, is it?
Agreed.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, if you think about at the beginning of the season, before a ball is kicked, where would we have been happy? Firstly, to see ourselves after 7 games, but also what are our aims for the end of the season? They may well have changed for Tottenham fans now, having seen those first 6. Actually, come the end of the season, drawing at home to Liverpool and drawing away to Arsenal is not going to define your season.
Of course not.
No.
Okay, so we all think it's going to be tight. I think we're going to nick it personally, and you won't hear me say that often. So I'm buzzing with Ange. Huh?
I
You
don't
don't
hear
hear
that
that often at all. Okay, gents, another great chat, another lovely episode. Great to talk to Cara and get your thoughts as always. We will be back next week before we play Luton Town, hopefully on the back of 3 points. Saturday evening, gents. Thanks as always, and
See you next week.
see you next week. And up the Spurs.